Well, hey everybody, I'm John Rethlin with another end of year show. My 25 favorite movies of the decade, with some honorable mentions included, of course. If you haven't seen the 25 least favorite movies list that I did, link is up here. I'm going to be a lot more positive here than I was in that video. You can hear me rage in the top 10 if you really want to. People tend to like to hear me rage. With this list, this doesn't mean that these are the best movies, the most Oscar-worthy movies, or, best movies, like, best character-driven, whatever. A lot of them are really well character-driven, in my opinion. But this list is subjective. There are plenty of movies that will not be included on this one, and the comment box is there. You guys are more than welcome to leave your thoughts. These are movies that I really enjoyed, and for a variety of reasons I'll get into. I also reviewed quite a few of these on the channel, so I'm not going to go over every single detail, much like, any other list that I've done, including my favorite and least favorite films of this year. So with that being said, thank you guys for the continued support on the channel, on Twitter, plugging the videos. Thank you guys. Let's go with the honorable mentions. Little Women, the remake of Little Women from Greta Gerwig, and had Saoirse Ronan, Florence Pugh, Emma Watson, and various others in it. Just did a review of it. Check it out if you haven't already, and go watch this movie. It's a really damn good edition of retreading familiar ground of the Little Women, writing, but the director puts her own spin on it. It just is really goddamn good. Annabelle Creation. I enjoyed this horror movie. I admit, okay, is it the best horror movie out there? No, I mean, it's not even close to the best horror movie ever. I would have definitely said if it was my favorite horror movie of all time, but as far as something that I particularly enjoyed, I really did enjoy this one. And I just wanted to give it a shout right here. It has its issues, just like any prequel or whatever, but I really enjoyed this one in comparison to the Annabelle 2014 version. Kingsman: The Secret Service. Really damn fun, great cast, and just overall a whole bunch of fun with a lot of creativity and a lot of smarts behind it. Tangled. I love Tangled. I thought Tangled was fantastic. One of the best animated movies, computer-generated movies. This was great. This was great goddamn shit. Hugely entertaining. Great inside jokes. A lot of creativity with it. A lot of great characters. I really like this one. Mirai. Mirai is something that I did not expect to really enjoy. I'm 50-50 when it comes to Japanese anime movies. This was really goddamn terrific, though. Very emotional, very touching. No, it is not the best anime movie I've ever seen. It is no Princess Mononoke, because that is definitely right up there. But this was quite good. Hannah. Saoirse Ronan plays an assassin, trained from an early age to, basically be an assassin. And she plays the role really goddamn well. She started the decade really, really strong and ends it really strong with Little Women. Marriage Story. Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, and various others really do add a great amount of character to this character-driven drama. And even a bit of a dark comedy when it comes to a couple that's, divorcing. But Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson deliver two career-making performances here. The Conjuring. Wanted to put The Conjuring in the top 25 originally, but I realized, as good as it is, and it is good, it is damn good in my opinion. I can't include it here, or I can't include it in the top 25 when there were so many other good movies that weren't just horror-related. And then also want to give a shout to Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods was pretty goddamn good. I could have included that in the top 25, but that was a really good movie. Disaster Artist. I mean, come on. It's based on the whole thing of how The Room got made and Tommy Wiseau and all that. And it was really fucking good. And James Franco just nails it. Absolutely nails it as Tommy Wiseau. And Ready or Not. Surprisingly, really, really good, entertaining movie. I did not expect to enjoy it nearly as much as I did. So, now with that out of the way, the honorable mentions, let's get to the top 25. Number 25, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino's 9th film. I loved it. I loved Leonardo DiCaprio's performance, Brad Pitt's performance. Margot Robbie, I didn't even mind her in this, and I'm 50-50 when it comes to her. I don't think she's bad. I just don't quite get the hype behind her, and maybe it's because I haven't seen her in something yet that has fully sold me on her. But I saw potential of her, even though she was playing the ditch. She was playing Sharon Tate. There were flashes of her actually maybe doing something, maybe, being able to have a really good, career in Hollywood. And I think she actually will. She seems like she's pretty nice. And seems like she, can add some layers to her character. But with that being said, this movie was very, very entertaining. Myself and Durbinator reviewed it. We had a lot of fun. And it was not perfect. But it was damn close. And that part at the Manson family compound, that sequence, That was really good, and I'd like to see Tarantino make his last film a horror movie, but we'll see. We get to number 29, or 24, number 29. We're just going to go all the way backwards out of 25. Number 24, The Help. It was great. It was great stuff. Great character work. Great, just great acting in general. I mean, and like you take a look at this cast. This cast just made everything work. They made the material work. Yes, it's a bit of a rough subject. Very rough subject. But they handled it well. They knew when to get serious. They knew when to be comedic. And goddamn, it was very entertaining. And then Hidden Figures at number 23. Pretty much the same thing I said about The Help. This was something where it's like it proves, hey, you need to break some barriers. You need to do some stuff where it's like, hey, you want to make this all about race? We're going to make this about people. And that was, I believe Kevin Costner was in this, if I recall correct. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it, so forgive me if I forgot. Sometimes for some reason I confuse Kevin Costner and Dennis Quaid, which is weird because, well, actually they both have weird career trajectories. But anyway, Hidden Figures is just one of those really, really great movies where there was another one when it knew to get serious and knew when to be a little bit comedic, but it was very uplifting, despite how much you wanted to punch some of the goddamn people that wanted to make it all about, oh, they're black, we can't like them. It's a stupid mindset, by the way, a little bit of a sidebar, stupid mindset if you're going to want to have that view of somebody of a particular race just because you don't like them. Hey, make fun of everybody. Be like me. Make fun of everybody, including white people. But don't hate somebody. Don't be racist. Don't be an idiot. You shouldn't have been that even in 2016. You definitely shouldn't be that way now. But Hidden Figures, very, very good. Move on to number 22, The Lighthouse. Robert Eggers, director of The Witch. The Witch might actually make a little bit of an appearance a little bit later in this. The movie, The Witch, not an actual witch. I don't have the budget for that. But you had Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson playing two great roles of two guys being keepers of a lighthouse. And then there was a weird mermaid girl, and it was filmed in black and white, and it was very visually impressive, very washed out in some parts, very crisp in other parts, and it just had this eerie feel about it. It was a very, very it's not a movie necessarily everybody can get into, and I could have maybe done with some captions at first because it was a little bit hard to keep up on the accents, and then you find out why as things go on, why the accents were so thick, and why they dissipate a little bit later. But with this movie, it just had a great look and a great feel to it, and I can see why it got so much goddamn praise. I liked it. I drove 30 miles to a theater that was showing it, just to watch it and see, how it was actually going to be. And it was really, really good. It was really fucking good. We then get to number 21, A Quiet Place. Quiet Place for The Last of Us, as some people, well, I called it. This was one of those. This is one of those movies that could have been hit or miss. It could have really worked with the whole idea that, everybody had to be quiet or otherwise these creatures are going to kill them. And it could have made it cheesy. And then there were parts of it that were a little bit cheesy. But there were a lot of parts of this movie that were goddamn good. And the director, John Krasinski, and Emily Blunt, who apparently are married in real life, and good for them, did a great job as husband and wife. Probably wasn't that difficult for them to play that. But of course, Krasinski took on the look of the dad from The Last of Us, and the creatures looked like the Clickers a little bit. Especially when their heads decided to expand and stuff like that, and it looked like they were cauliflower monsters. If you played The Last of Us, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're probably totally in the fucking dark, but it's pretty goddamn good moving video game. But Quiet Place is very, very good. And I have nothing really, any issues I have with it, it still doesn't take away from the fact this was really goddamn good and really well done. Number 20, Inception. Time has not necessarily been kind to this movie. I think a lot of people have said, it thinks it's smarter than it actually is. And that might be true. But Christopher Nolan started off the decade pretty goddamn well here. Now, he didn't do so good with Interstellar, in my opinion. I ranted about that in the least favorite movies of the decade list. And again, link up here if you haven't checked that out, because you can hear me rage a little bit. But with this movie, it was about jumping into dreams and this kind of stuff and trying to solve a mystery and rewrite history. It's not DuckTales, woo-woo. But you had Ellen Page, Leonardo DiCaprio, a whole bunch of other people. The cast kind of runs together in my head. But it was very good where you didn't know if they were in a dream sequence or they weren't in a dream sequence or where they were and this kind of stuff. Will they, won't they, it was really, really good. Ellen Page is somebody I kind of wish would be in some more major Hollywood releases. What happened to her? What exactly happened to Ellen Page? Inception, though, very, very good. Very well done. Just great stuff. Moonlight. Moonlight is tough to watch at times, but my God, did this movie deserve every accolade that it got. From just, from the casting, the cinematography was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. The directing, everything about this movie worked really well, and I wasn't able to see it in theaters. I was able to see it on streaming later, and it was sometime after it had after it had been at the Oscar, after all the nominations, after the Oscar ceremony had already been done. So I didn't get a chance to see it before that happened. And I got to see it, and holy shit, I absolutely see why this got so much praise. And I'm going to throw a little bit of a shout for La La Land. I think La La Land deserved every bit of praise it got. Loving tribute to the musical, and I thought was a goddamn good movie. So both those movies deserve a shout right there. Little sidebar, though. I do want to throw out something. Actually, I'm going to throw out a sidebar a little bit later in this list, but wait a couple minutes. It might be related to a certain, lightsaber heavy franchise. So we get to number 18, Assassination Nation. I remember saying at the beginning of my review that was a mouthful of a title, and it really is. This is like Mean Girls meets The Purge. I like the casting. I thought that now I admittedly had to watch it a second time to fully grasp just how much I enjoyed this movie, but I enjoyed it the first time. It does take a little bit of getting used to, and it does start off with a loud party scene, this kind of stuff, and it gets to where everybody just goes insane because all their social media gets hacked and everything, and people start, wanting to clean up their town and stuff like that, and it turns out they have a pretty stupid reason as to why this hacking happened, but the casting was pretty goddamn good in this. And I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was funny. I thought it had some good bloody moments. And, okay, maybe the movie isn't for everybody. I liked it. And, sure, some of these rankings are kind of done at random. And in all honesty, Moonlight as a film should be in the top 5. But I'm going based on what I enjoyed the most out of movies. And I enjoyed Assassination Nation a whole lot. So, yeah, I look forward to being shredded in the comments for how I rank these. Now we get to number 17, but seriously, Assassination Nation, very good stuff. Number 17, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I'm not putting Avengers Endgame or, Age of Ultron or this kind of stuff or whatever on here, okay? I'm not. I got superheroed out, so I haven't seen, I've seen a couple of the Avengers movies. I've not seen Endgame and I've not seen that stuff, otherwise I might have been on here. Captain America, the Winter Soldier is one of the few superhero movies that really stuck with me. It was better than the first one. Even though the first Avengers surprised me, I thought it was pretty goddamn good. Civil War was also good. I like Winter Soldier just a bit more. Thought in Civil War probably could have just edged on to here if I really wanted to, but I picked one, and Winter Soldier is the one that stuck with me the most. I thought the energy of it was great. The tone of it, it was a lot darker, and had a lot of good characters to it. I just thought that this really had a perfect balance of how it would, just balancing his being torn between his friendship with Bucky and, everything else. And and I could just be describing Civil War with that, but this was just a perfect balance of great drama with some comedy, with some good action, but also some really touching parts to it. I really enjoyed Winter Soldier. I thought Winter Soldier was pretty goddamn good. And sure, okay, maybe people didn't enjoy this one the most, but you know what? I did. I thought compared to the first one, this was goddamn good. So then we get to number 16, Super 8. Super 8 was one of the finest sci-fi movies I've seen in a while. A train crashes, a creature bursts out, and these kids have to try and find it. It was good. It was goddamn good. It was really goddamn good. This was great production, great writing, a little cheesy, but still. Any of this kind of stuff with aliens, you're going to get some cheesy stuff with it. And I really thought that this was a goddamn good movie. It was very entertaining, very well done. No complaints here. Then we get to number 15, Get Out. Jordan Peele's directorial debut, foray into the horror franchise, and boy, he touches on racism and a whole bunch of stuff in a very good way. Almost a bit of a dark comedy, but does have some good thriller horror elements. Made me realize a croquet ball is very good as a weapon. Need to learn that for later, or remember that for later. Moving on. This was very, very good. Great acting in general. Great performance by the lead, whose name does escape me right now, but I do remember him being very, very good. Would love to see what else he could be in. I think he's in Queen and Slim, which is something I also need to see at some point. But I liked Get Out. Thought Get Out was quite good. We then get to number 14. This is where the sidebar comes in. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Fuck the haters. I think this movie is fucking excellent. At least in my opinion. I thought Rogue One was the best of the Disney movies that they've done since, of the Disney Star Wars movies. Theatrical. Solo, probably ranked at the bottom. I like the Skywalker franchise or saga, even though I recognize that those movies weren't completely cohesive. You had, J.J. Abrams bookend, Rian Johnson be in the middle there, and everybody put their own spin on. It was a bit messy. But I also thought the cast of the Skywalker trilogy did a pretty goddamn good job, and I think got way, way, way too much hate. Kelly Marie Tran, the Asian woman that was in Last Jedi, that got so much hate that she left Instagram because people were being so goddamn stupid. Because there are a whole bunch of goddamn idiots that want to hate something because, oh no, we have a woman that's in a prominent role, forgetting Princess Leia because they're morons, and slamming Daisy Ridley because how dare we have a strong female Jedi that don't need no man. But with this movie, I think the Skywalker saga was just fine, and I'll fight anybody that disagrees. I'm kidding. There are mutuals of mine that don't necessarily care for it. I think the hate it got was way too much, though I recognize it has its flaws. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story was quite goddamn good. I think for the fact it was bridging, to episode 4, I think they did pretty well. They introduced some great characters. It had a dark feel to it because you knew it wasn't going to end well, and it didn't end well. It was quite fucking amazing. It had a great dark end. It did have, it did have a bit of an uplifting end. It's been 3 years. I'm going to spoil it right here, but the file gets to somebody. It's like, what is it? And it turns around and it's Carrie Fisher, or it's Princess Leia, digitally de-aged. What is it? Hope, she says. Now, I saw Rogue One a few days after she died. And I remember it's like I saw that, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of hurt. It probably would have hurt even more if I had seen the movie when it first came out and then, she had passed away. But I liked Rogue One. I thought the droid was absolutely great. I thought he was great and snide. The amount of hate this movie got, I just didn't understand. As a standalone movie, as something that was basically a prequel, this was way better than the George Lucas prequels. It was way better than Phantom Menace. It was way better than Attack of Clones. Revenge of the Sith, there were some good elements in all of them. I didn't necessarily care for them because George Lucas by that point either didn't have it, didn't want it, or shouldn't have been behind the camera at all. And I'm guessing all three. But with this, I just thought that Rogue One was excellent and deserves way more love than it gets. Now, again, my opinion, that doesn't mean that I'm more right or you guys are more wrong. That's where I'm leaving it at that. So I'm going to continue with this list. I'm obviously not ending this list and making it a two-parter because I talked about some of these before and it's not going to take very long, but that's my little sidebar about Star Wars. We get to number 13, The Conjuring 2, Electric Boogaloo. This was great. This was better than the first Conjuring. The, element of it being all about family, introducing Valak, the nun creature, the demon, the vile deceiver. The fact that it was based in the UK and you just had all around this family and the really scary, it was a lot darker than the first one. The first one was pretty goddamn dark. This one was even darker and a lot scarier. This was fucking terrific though. One of my favorite horror movies of the decade, which is another list you can check out on my movie reviews playlist if you would like. Number 12, this was not intentional, I swear, 12 Years a Slave. Launched Lupita Nyong'o's career. I'm always getting that name wrong. She's been great in a lot of stuff since. She's been great in something else I'm going to be mentioning a little bit later on this list. I point on a list that's actually on my lap. But, boy, a movie that you can only watch once. Terrific performances, gritty. It has, despite the fact that I say it's gritty because obviously it's about slavery, the fact that it's about slavery, but it's like it has this bright sun look in some of the scenes to emphasize just how much these people suffered while being, forced into human slavery and everything. And just her performance, everybody's performance in this was great. Like anybody, any of the antagonists, any of the people that wanted to treat any of the slaves bad, it's just you instantly hated them. It really wasn't hard to like want to punch somebody that ran, that owned a plantation, this kind of stuff. But she really anchored the movie, and that's not to take away anything from the male leads, the male performances in this movie. That's not to take anything away from that at all. She was absolutely terrific in this, and that was a career-launching performance. It's still one I can only watch once, but oh boy, was it really good. We then get to number 11, The Witch. Great. It was a great slow burn movie. It was from the guy, Robert Eggers, who directed The Lighthouse. Slow burn stuff, makes you hate black goats, and the lead, Anna something. I don't know why I failed to remember some names. Probably because I got a bunch of shit that I review up and store up in my head. She was great. The young blonde that's in this. She, from her age, I think she was only 18 when this movie came out. So now she's like just 22. She's going to have a long career provided she wants to keep going. I think she's going to be in a new version of Emma coming out here in a few months, which ought to be interesting. But this was great stuff. A baby disappears, and there's witches and stuff like that, and demonic, and demons coming around and stuff like that. And one hell of an ending of where, well, maybe you shouldn't have moved off away from that village and moved up, so close to some haunted woods, but whatever. Dad was also terrific in this movie. In fact, the whole family was well cast. This movie was really well performed. Did slow burn, but boy, when it hit, it fucking hit. And then we get to number 10, Toy Story 3. This movie made me cry. If you haven't seen Toy Story 3, what the hell are you waiting for? Toy Story 4 could have made it on here, but I decided to go with number 3 because 3 affected me more. 4 was good. 3 was better. That scene where, the toys get thrown into that incinerator and it looks like they're going to die, If that doesn't get to you, I don't know what will. Especially if you're any kind of fan of the first movie, the second movie, and you've watched to this point. You've grown some attachment to the characters. 3 felt like it should have been the end of it. Now I get why they made 4. They made 4 because they wanted to make money. Because of course they want to make money. And why not? But 3 was like the apex. And then the toys who were given to the little girl and everything by Andy because he's going away to college. It was a deeply affecting movie, and I didn't expect it to be. It was pretty goddamn emotional by the end. I'm going to start talking about this just so I don't get too emotional about it. But didn't think an animated movie would necessarily affect me. This and Mirai were like the 2 animated movies of this decade that really affected me. That I can recall. But yeah, Toy Story 3 was phenomenal. Then we get to number 9, Black Swan. Natalie Portman with a career-defining performance. She had already been good for a while. Had shed the whole, Star Wars trilogy, prequel trilogy thing from her, and have been in other movies since. Black Swan was great stuff. I actually watched it with a friend of mine who, a friend of mine who now lives pretty far away, and I'm disappointed because I really enjoyed hanging out with her. But she had told me at the beginning she was gay. I think it's just so I didn't think that anything would happen. She was cool, got along with her. We watched Black Swan, and I remember thinking afterwards when there's a certain scene between Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis, and afterwards she's like, yeah, that scene or whatever. I said, yeah, who'd that scene do more for? And I joked with her and everything. She had fun with it. Little side thing, she would actually always introduce herself to any friends that I had. The few friends that I actually hung out with, and she came and hung out with me, she said, oh, I'm his gay friend, which was kind of funny. But that was a really, really cool experience. But the movie itself it was Darren Aronofsky at his peak before he decided to shit the bed with Mother, which I hated. But boy, this movie was fun. A whole lot of fun, and Natalie Portman was great. We then get to number 8, It. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise was absolutely terrifying. The kids were fucking great. It was very much a Stranger Thing-like vibe, because it was kind of capturing the whole spirit of Stranger Things, easy for me to say, which I think it was just in its first season by this point. I have not watched any Stranger Things. I've just seen clips of it, but I got a very 80s vibe from it. With this, though, I was very uncertain of how good this was going to be, making a new version of, Stephen King's iconic clown, clown child murdering thing. And I didn't know how to, I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. That's a great thing. Clown, child murdering clown thing. There we go. So the whole point of this movie was an entity takes form of a clown and kills children. Every 27 years, it feasts. These children fight it back. And then we get it chapter 2, which was good. In fact, pretty good. I might have been a little too kind to it when I initially reviewed it, but I enjoyed it. This part gets a special mention, though, for just being really goddamn good and really goddamn eerie. Pretty goddamn chilling. Okay, was it cheesy in parts? Yes, it's about a killer clown, not from outer space, that tries to kill children. But this was so much better than the Tim Curry version. And Tim Curry, I love. He was great as Pennywise. And the child part was fine. The adult part wasn't. At least the adult part for this was pretty good. For chapter 2, not for this. Focuses solely on the kids. So, we move on to number 7, Hereditary. Toni Collette. Fantastic performance in this. Great stuff with the daughter, Millie, something or other. She was great, with very little dialogue. There was an event that happened in this movie that changed everything and made it all about. It was about tragic loss and family, and it was, with family, how would the family deal with it and stuff like that. There were, supernatural, demonic tropes about it. But it just had it had a great feel to it. It was fantastic. This was a great goddamn movie. Midsommar, Ari Aster's follow-up to Hereditary. Actually, it's just a little bit better. A little bit. I had to think about this a whole lot more because I initially ranked Hereditary a little bit higher than I did Midsommar when I did my 2018 list and I did my 2019 list. But I also saw a lot more movies than just horror movies, in theaters this year compared to last year. Now, Midsommar maybe is a little bit longer in the tooth, and maybe isn't quite as good in some people's opinions. I think it's just a little bit better. Just a little bit better. I do rank Hereditary pretty goddamn high, and Midsommar is pretty goddamn good, but taking in the whole totality of the decade, this Florence Pugh's character just puts it a little bit over the top. And the fact that it was so bright and cheery yet eerie and everything, and no, I did not intend for that to rhyme, for I do have the time. This was great stuff. And it was all about, Swedish death cult and everything. And because that's a great vacation idea, let's go to a Swedish death cult. But yeah, Florence Pugh, Toni Collette, you can put those performances side by side. Ari Aster, I hope he does another horror movie. I don't know if he will anytime soon. But my God, he has shown himself to be a master of it. Hereditary was all about family problems. And Midsommar was the ultimate breakup movie. Number 5, Us. Lupita Nyong'o. Wow, I managed to almost get it correct. Has a great dual performance because this is about clones of people coming back to take over the world. Very Twilight Zone-esque. Jordan Peele directing it, by the way. But yeah, Lupita doing a great job as the darker half, and no, I don't mean that in the way you think I mean, in the way that where she is trying to lead this band of misfits, so to speak, to take back the world and get everything that they feel they deserve. And then you have the lighter half of her that just wants to keep her family together. And then it turns out that these two actually switch, that the clone is the clonee is actually the one that's part of the family. And the normal girl was actually put into this facility against her will. That wasn't really shocking. I don't know why people found that to be suddenly stunning. They must have never seen a movie. But it was very well performed. This movie was absolutely great. It was great stuff. I can't say enough good stuff about Us. We then get to Parasite, one of the movies from the director of The Host, which was a great monster movie, one of my favorite monster movies of all time. If not my favorite monster movie of all time. He directed Snowpiercer and others as well. About a family a poor family that works its way into a rich family's home to work with them and everything and get some of their funds, so they can get out of the slums. And then an event happens where it turns out, oh wait, we shouldn't have gotten into this situation. And then people die at a family gathering at the end. Also, it has a dad from The Host in it. The guy that had the weird blondish hair. He's delivered a couple pretty good performances here. Great movie though. Then we get to Waves. This was my number 1 movie of 2019. Shockingly, it beat Us, and I didn't think it would. It was a great drama about an African-American family growing up, all the hardships that they have, and just trying to keep the family together. The performances were real. Everything about this was absolutely great. I can't say enough good things about Waves. You need to go watch it. If it's not in theaters anymore, see when it's available on Amazon, pay for it, watch it. You'll understand. It can be depressing because it's dealt with a lot of in a very realistic way, but it was very, very good. Number 2, Lady Bird. I so badly wanted to put this number 1, but I just couldn't. But it's more like 1A. Like 1 and 1A. Lady Bird, Saoirse Ronan, as a girl growing up, she's about to go to college and everything. She wants to go out and see the world and everything. Her family wants her to stay more close to home and stuff like that because they've always had her home. She experiences her first love. Her and one of her close friends experience their first loves. Then she experiences more of something closer and stuff like that. But it's all about like experiences and everything. Coming out of high school, what are you gonna do with your life and stuff like that? Are you gonna feel like you miss your family when you go off to college? And she realizes that even though her family did irritate her, that yes, she had a good attachment to her family, and she realizes she wants to keep in contact with them. Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan, this was the first of 2 movies that they would be, paired up with paired together in this decade. Lady Bird was better than Little Women. I mean, Little Women, don't get me wrong, and had it not been for some of the movies, that probably would have been in my top 25. Lady Bird was terrifically written, well performed. Saoirse Ronan delivering, again, and it feels like I'm repeating myself, a career-making performance. She did really goddamn good in this. I can't believe that she was I know that she's really, really good. She's had a hell of a decade. I mentioned a couple of her other movies. She was even good in The Host, which I admit The Host wasn't all that good. But she did a really goddamn good job. And, God, Lady Bird, I so badly wanted to put this number 1. But number 1, Suspiria. Or Suspiria. However you want to say it. Everybody has, you say tomato, I say tomato. Dakota Johnson. If you would have thought I would have put over a Dakota Johnson performance after the 50 Shades trilogy, and that's nothing against her. But if I would have thought she would have been able to shed that and deliver some other performances after that trilogy was over, and I know she was in other movies during that time and even before that, I would have laughed. She was absolutely phenomenal in this. Tilda Swinton was great. Chloe Grace Moretz. Everybody else that was in this that played their roles just fine. The horror elements of this, the psychological horror elements of this. It was a much more fleshed out version of Dario Argento's movie. Now, I can recognize why some people might have preferred the 77 version. I preferred this, and I love me some Italian horror, do not get me wrong. Dario Argento deserves his place as Mario Bava deserve their place among iconic horror movie directors, especially in like Europe, because they both were really, really good, and nobody should forget the 1977 version of Suspiria. This was great, and this one exceeded the original, in my personal opinion. And it's why it was my favorite movie of 2018, and it's why it's my favorite movie of this decade. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and I'll see you soon.